The message that changed everything. Maylene stared at her phone in horror, the blue light illuminating her face in the darkness of her small apartment. Her heart pounded against her ribs like it was trying to escape. "No, no, no," she whispered, frantically tapping at the screen. The message had already been delivered, and worse, it had been read. "I think I love you. I've been feeling this way for months, and I can't pretend anymore. I know this might change everything, but I needed you to know." The message was meant for Daniel, her childhood friend who had recently moved back to Singapore. They had reconnected over coffee 3 months ago, and something had shifted. But instead of sending it to Daniel, she had sent it to Julian Wong, her boss and the creative director at Horizon Digital. Maylene dropped her phone onto her bed and buried her face in her hands. At 28, she had finally secured a position at one of Singapore's most prestigious digital marketing agencies. After years of freelancing and building her portfolio, she had been thrilled when Horizon hired her as a senior graphic designer. And now, after just 6 months, she had potentially ruined everything with a single text. Julian Wong was brilliant, professional, and completely unapproachable. At 35, he had already established himself as one of the most innovative creative directors in the industry. Everyone respected him, but no one really knew him. He kept his distance, focused on the work, and expected the same from his team. Her phone buzzed, and Maylene's stomach dropped. She picked it up with trembling fingers. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Before she could respond, another message appeared. Or perhaps not. "This is Julian Wong. I assume this wasn't meant for me?" Maylene's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Mr. Wong, I am so sorry. That message was meant for someone else. Please forgive my carelessness. It won't happen again." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. No need to apologize. "These things happen. See you tomorrow." Formal. Professional. Exactly what she would expect from him. But it didn't make her feel any better. Sleep evaded Maylene that night. She tossed and turned, imagining every possible scenario for the next day. Would he fire her? Ignore her? Make some cutting remark in front of the team? By the time she arrived at the office, she had convinced herself that her career was over. She slipped into the building, hoping to reach her desk without being noticed. "Maylene," Julian's voice stopped her in her tracks. He stood in the doorway of his office, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, his expression unreadable. "My office, please." "When you're settled," she nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "Of course." 15 minutes later, after dropping off her things and making a desperate visit to the bathroom to splash water on her face, Maylene knocked on Julian's door. "Come in," he called. Julian sat behind his desk, reviewing something on his tablet. He gestured to the chair across from him without looking up. "Please, sit." Maylene perched on the edge of the seat, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "About last night," Julian began, finally meeting her gaze. I am so sorry," Maylene interrupted, the words tumbling out. "It was completely unprofessional, and I promise it won't happen again. I value my position here, and I would never intentionally do anything to jeopardize—" "Maylene," Julian said quietly, stopping her ramble. "I'm not upset," she blinked. "You're not?" "No." He set down his tablet and leaned back in his chair. "But your message, it made me realize something." "It did?" Julian's normally composed expression softened slightly. "I don't know the last time someone said those words to me, even by accident." He paused, seeming to choose his next words carefully. "You're talented, Maylene. Your work on the Sunrise Hotel campaign was exceptional. But I've never told you that, have I?" Maylene stared at him, completely taken aback. "No, you haven't. That's the problem. I've become detached, efficient but cold. Your message reminded me that connections matter, even in a professional setting." He straightened in his chair. "I'd like to discuss your ideas for the upcoming Chen Industries project." "Perhaps over lunch?" Maylene couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Lunch?" "Yes, if you're available. Yes, I'm available." "Good." Julian nodded, his professional demeanor returning. "We'll leave at 12:30. As Maylene walked back to her desk, her mind was spinning. This wasn't at all what she had expected. The accidental message hadn't ended her career. Instead, it had cracked open a door she never knew existed. Little did she know that this lunch would be the first of many conversations that would completely change both their lives. awkward revelations. The restaurant Julian chose was tucked away in a quiet corner of the business district, an unassuming place with muted lighting and private booths. Not the usual spot for a work meeting. "I come here when I need to think," Julian explained as they settled into a booth near the back. "The food is excellent and no one from the industry comes here." Mei Lin nodded, still trying to process the surreal situation. Just 24 hours ago, she had been mortified by her messaging mistake. Now she was having lunch with the notoriously private Julian Wong, who was suddenly speaking to her as if they were actual colleagues rather than boss and subordinate. "You're wondering why I brought you here," Julian said, cutting directly to the point as he always did. "The Chen Industries project?" Mei Lin offered, clinging to the professional pretext he'd given. Julian's lips curved into a slight smile, the first genuine expression she'd seen from him. "Partly, but I also wanted to tell you something." He paused as the waiter brought water and took their orders. When they were alone again, he continued, "Your accidental message made me realize I've been leading the creative team all wrong." "I don't understand," Mei Lin said, genuinely confused. "I've been focused entirely on results, not people." Julian's fingers tapped lightly on the table, a rare sign of nervousness from someone usually so composed. 2 years ago, I was creative director at Pinnacle Design. I dated another director there, Olivia. We were together for almost 3 years, and I thought we were building something real. Then I discovered she'd been using my concepts, presenting them to clients as her own. Mei Lin's eyes widened. "That's terrible. It was educational," Julian said with a wry twist of his mouth. "I left the company, took the position at Horizon, and decided professional distance was the safest approach. No personal connections, no vulnerability, no risk. And no real collaboration," Mei Lin added softly, then immediately regretted her boldness. But Julian didn't seem offended. "Exactly. Your message, even though it wasn't meant for me, was honest, vulnerable, something I've been avoiding." He looked directly at her. "Who was it meant for?" The question caught her off guard. "My friend Daniel. We grew up together, lost touch, and recently reconnected." "And you love him," Julian stated. Mei Lin's cheeks warmed. "I thought I might. But after writing that message, I realized I was rushing into feelings because I was lonely." She took a sip of water, surprised by her own candor. "Sometimes what we think we want isn't really what we need." Something flickered in Julian's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. "The Chen Industries project," he said, smoothly changing the subject. "I've seen your preliminary sketches. They're good, but they're safe. Why?" The abrupt shift back to work threw Mei Lin momentarily. "Because that's what you approved for the last 3 campaigns. And if you could do anything you wanted, I'd break the entire concept down and rebuild it. Chen makes innovative medical technology, but their branding looks like every other corporate healthcare company. I'd use bold colors, unexpected imagery, show the human impact of their work instead of sterile lab photos." Julian leaned forward, genuinely interested. "Show me." Encouraged by his attention, Mei Lin pulled out her tablet and opened files she'd never planned to share, her personal vision for the project. As she explained her concepts, Julian asked questions, challenged assumptions, and built upon her ideas. For 2 hours, they forgot about the awkwardness of the morning, focused entirely on creation. When they finally returned to the office, something had shifted between them. Nothing inappropriate, nothing unprofessional, but a wall had come down. "Develop those concepts further," Julian told her as they walked through the office. "I want to see more by Friday." Mei Lin nodded, trying to contain her excitement. "I will." As she turned to go, Julian added, "And Mei Lin, thank you for your honesty today, about everything." Over the following weeks, their professional relationship evolved. Julian began inviting Mei Lin into more meetings, asking for her input and implementing her suggestions. The team noticed the change but attributed it to her work on the Chen project, which was progressing brilliantly. Only Mei Lin knew the catalyst had been a misdirected text message, and only she noticed how Julian's reserved demeanor had begun to soften, not just with her but with everyone. He started acknowledging birthdays, praising good work, even occasionally joining the team for after-hours drinks. During one such evening, as several team members gathered at a nearby bar, Mei-Lin found herself alone with Julian at the table while others ordered drinks. "You've changed things," he said quietly, "for the better." "I didn't do anything," she protested. "You did," Julian shook his head. "You showed me what I was missing. And I—" His phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at it, his expression immediately darkening. "What's wrong?" Mei-Lin asked. "Olivia," he said, his voice tight. "She's joining Magnacorp. They just acquired Chen Industries as a client." Mei-Lin's stomach dropped. "Our client?" Julian nodded grimly. "And she's requesting all our preliminary work for review." Hidden depths, the Chen Industries crisis dominated the next 2 weeks. Julian worked relentlessly to secure the client's loyalty, while the entire creative team scrambled to perfect their campaign ahead of schedule. Mei-Lin barely saw her apartment, often sleeping on the office couch to meet deadlines. One night, well past midnight, she was refining design elements when Julian appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "You should go home," he said, setting 1 cup beside her. Mei-Lin rubbed her tired eyes. "So should you. But we both know that's not happening." Julian pulled up a chair beside her. In the quiet emptiness of the office, the usual boundaries seemed less defined. "Tell me about Daniel," he said unexpectedly. Mei-Lin looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because it's midnight. We're both exhausted. And I'm tired of thinking about Olivia and Chen Industries." His usual composure had slipped, revealing a glimpse of the man beneath the professional mask. "There's not much to tell," Mei-Lin said, taking a sip of coffee. "We grew up in the same neighborhood. His family moved to Australia when we were 15. We kept in touch for a while, then life happened. He moved back 3 months ago and reached out." "And you fell in love," Julian concluded. Mei-Lin shook her head. "I thought I might be. But after that text, after our lunch, I realized I was confusing familiarity with love." She gave him a curious look. "What about you? Anyone since Olivia?" Julian's laugh was short and humorless. "No. Work became my relationship." He glanced at her screen. "That color transition is beautiful. Show me how you did that." And just like that, the personal moment passed. But something had been acknowledged between them, a mutual understanding that they were more than just boss and employee. They were 2 people whose lives had unexpectedly intersected, changing both their trajectories. The following Saturday, Mei-Lin was wandering through the Botanic Gardens, enjoying her first day off in weeks, when she spotted a familiar figure sitting on a bench, sketchbook in hand. Julian looked different outside the office, dressed in jeans and a simple blue shirt, hair slightly tousled by the breeze, focused intently on whatever he was drawing. She considered slipping away unnoticed, reluctant to intrude on his private time, but he looked up and saw her. "Mei-Lin!" he called, closing his sketchbook. "Come sit," she approached hesitantly. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "I didn't know you came here." "Every Saturday," Julian said, moving over to make room for her. "It clears my head." "You draw?" she asked, gesturing to the sketchbook. Julian looked almost embarrassed. "I studied fine art before switching to design. I still sketch sometimes just for myself." "May I?" she asked, indicating the book. After a moment's hesitation, Julian handed it to her. The pages revealed careful studies of plants, architectural details, people in the park, all rendered with unexpected sensitivity. "Julian, these are wonderful," Mei-Lin said, genuinely impressed. "Why don't you ever draw at work?" "Different worlds," he replied simply. "What brings you here today?" "I needed space to think," she admitted. "The Chen campaign is consuming everything." Julian nodded. "Walk with me?" "There's a new installation in the cloud forest I've been wanting to see." For the next 3 hours, they explored the gardens together, their conversation flowing naturally between work, art, and personal stories. Julian told her about growing up as the son of a traditional banker who disapproved of his creative pursuits. Mei-Lin shared her struggles as a freelancer before landing at Horizon. By the time they stopped for tea at the Garden Cafe, Mei-Lin felt she was seeing the real Julian for the first time, thoughtful, observant, and surprisingly funny when he allowed himself to be. "I never expected this," Julian said quietly as they sat watching people pass by. "The gardens?" Mei-Lin asked. "No, this." He gestured between them. Friendship. After Olivia, I didn't trust my judgment about people. Mei Lin felt a strange flutter in her chest at the word friendship. And now? Now I'm reconsidering many things, Julian said, his eyes meeting hers. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken possibilities. Then Julian's phone rang, the special tone he'd set for clients. Chen Industries, the real world intruding once again. As Julian took the call, his expression transitioning back to professional mode, Mei Lin reflected on the complicated situation they were navigating. She admired him, enjoyed his company, and felt a connection growing between them. But he was still her boss, and they both had painful experiences informing their caution. Whatever was happening between them would have to wait. First, they had a campaign to save. The breaking point. The Chen Industries presentation was scheduled for Monday morning. On Sunday night, the entire creative team was still at the office making final adjustments. The pressure was enormous. Everyone knew that Olivia's team at Magnacorp would be presenting an alternative campaign. They can't possibly have developed something comparable in such a short time, Emmett. One of the junior designers insisted as they reviewed the presentation deck. Unless they had inside information, Tara, the copywriter, added with a meaningful look at Julian. Julian's expression remained neutral, but Mei Lin noticed the tension in his shoulders. The unspoken suggestion that he might have shared information with Olivia hung in the air. That's enough, Mei Lin said firmly. Julian has done more than anyone to protect this account. Let's focus on what we can control. The team returned to work, but the damage was done. As they wrapped up for the night, Julian pulled Mei Lin aside. Thank you for that, he said quietly. But Tara's not entirely wrong to be suspicious. What do you mean? Julian ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. Olivia reached out to me directly last week. Suggested we meet to discuss old times. I declined, but she's been persistent. You think she's trying to get information about our campaign? I know she is, and now the team thinks I might be compromised. His voice was tight with frustration. Maybe I should recuse myself from the presentation. Absolutely not, Mei Lin said firmly. This is your campaign as much as anyone's. More even. Julian's expression softened as he looked at her. It's our campaign, Mei Lin. Your vision brought it to life. The moment was interrupted when Emmett returned to collect his forgotten laptop. Julian stepped back, his professional mask slipping back into place. 7 a.m. tomorrow, he told Mei Lin. We'll do a final review before the clients arrive. That night, Mei Lin couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong about the whole situation with Olivia. Why target this particular client so aggressively? She pulled up the research they'd compiled on Chen Industries, reviewing financial reports and press releases until her eyes burned. At 3 a.m., she found it, buried in an investor newsletter from 3 months earlier. Chen Industries was developing a groundbreaking neural interface that could revolutionize prosthetics. The technology was still under wraps, but if successful, it would transform the company from a mid-sized player to an industry leader. Mei Lin grabbed her phone and called Julian. Mei Lin? His voice was groggy with sleep. What's wrong? I know why Olivia wants Chen Industries, she said, explaining her discovery. This isn't about stealing a client from you. It's about getting in on the ground floor of something massive. There was silence on the other end, then the sound of movement. Meet me at the office in 30 minutes. When Mei Lin arrived, Julian was already there, surrounded by printouts and open laptop screens. You're right, he said without preamble. And there's more. Look at this. He showed her a series of news articles about Magnacorp's recent acquisitions, all companies developing complementary technologies to Chen's neural interface. They're building an ecosystem. Mei Lin realized, if they get Chen too, they'll control the entire market before it even develops, Julian finished. We need to rebuild our presentation. The campaign we've designed is good, but it doesn't address this aspect of their business at all. Can we do that in 4 hours? Julian looked at her steadily. Together? Yes. They worked feverishly, restructuring the campaign to highlight Chen's innovative potential while subtly emphasizing the risks of being absorbed into a larger corporate structure. By the time the rest of the team arrived at 7, they had a completely new strategy. "This is brilliant," Tara said, as Julian walked them through the changes. "But it's also a huge risk. What if the clients aren't ready to go public with the neural interface? We're not exposing anything that isn't already available to careful researchers," Julian explained. "We're just showing them that we understand their true value proposition." The presentation was scheduled for 9 a.m. At 8:30, as they were making final preparations in the conference room, the elevator doors opened to reveal Olivia Chen, sleek, confident, and walking directly toward Julian. "Julian, darling," she said, her voice carrying across the office. "It's been too long." Julian straightened, his expression cooling. "Olivia, you're at the wrong agency. Magna Corp is 3 blocks east." "Oh, I know exactly where I am." She smiled, glancing around at the team. Her gaze paused on Mei Lin. "Is this your new protege?" "How sweet." The condescension in her voice was unmistakable. Mei Lin felt a surge of protective anger. "Actually, Mr. Wong and I are co-leads on this project. The entire team has contributed exceptional work." Olivia's smile didn't waver. "Charming. Julian always did like to play mentor." She turned back to Julian. "I just thought I'd stop by to wish you luck. You'll need it." As she turned to leave, Julian called after her. "Olivia, does Magna Corp know about your history of appropriating other people's work, or should I mention it when we see them at industry events?" Olivia's composure slipped momentarily. "Be careful, Julian. You don't want to make an enemy of me?" "No," Julian agreed, his voice steady. "I don't want to think about you at all. Good luck with your presentation." After she left, the office was silent. Then Emmett let out a low whistle. "Boss, I apologize for every doubt I ever had." The tension broke as the team laughed, returning to their preparations with renewed determination. But as they gathered their materials for the client meeting, Mei Lin noticed Julian standing alone by the window, his expression troubled. "Hey," she said softly, approaching him. "You okay?" "I thought seeing her would hurt more," he admitted. "But I just felt nothing except—" He hesitated. "Except what?" Julian turned to her, his eyes intense. "Except grateful that you were here. That you found what we needed. That you stood up for our team." He took a breath. "For me?" Before Mei Lin could respond, the receptionist announced that the Chen Industries executives had arrived. The moment passed, but something fundamental had changed between them. The presentation was a triumph. Julian and Mei Lin seamlessly alternated sections, their natural rapport evident to everyone. When they revealed their knowledge of the neural interface project, not exposing it, but acknowledging its significance to Chen's future, the company's CEO looked genuinely impressed. "This is exactly why we came to Horizon," he said afterward, shaking Julian's hand. "You see the bigger picture. Magna Corp showed us flash, but you showed us vision." The contract was renewed for 3 years, the longest term Chen had ever committed to with an agency. As the team celebrated back at the office, Mei Lin found herself on the balcony, taking a moment alone to process the emotional roller coaster of the past weeks. Julian joined her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "To successful partnerships," he said, offering her one. Mei Lin accepted the glass. "Professional ones, you mean?" Julian's gaze was steady. "Is that all this is to you, Mei Lin? Professional?" Her heart raced at the directness of his question. "Julian, I need to know," he interrupted gently. "Because I can't keep pretending that message you sent didn't change something for me, even knowing it wasn't meant for me." New beginnings. Mei Lin stared at Julian, the city lights twinkling behind him, his question hanging between them. For weeks they had danced around the growing connection, maintaining professional boundaries while their personal relationship deepened. "It scares me," she admitted finally, "what I'm feeling. You're my boss, Julian, and if I wasn't—" Mei Lin's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" Julian set down his glass and leaned against the railing. "After today's presentation, I received an offer. The Creative Directors Guild wants me to lead their new mentorship program, teaching, developing young talent, building the next generation of industry leaders. You'd leave Horizon?" The thought sent an unexpected pang through her chest. "I've been considering it for a while," Julian said. "Even before," he gestured between them, "before everything changed. Because of Olivia? The rumors?" Julian shook his head. "Because I realized I'd stopped growing. I was maintaining, not creating. Not until you accidentally sent that message and forced me to see what I'd become." Mei Lin was quiet for a long moment. "You should take it," she finally said. "It's perfect for you. The way you helped me develop the Chen campaign. You're a natural mentor, Julian. And us?" he asked quietly. The question hung in the air between them, weighted with possibility. Mei Lin thought about the past weeks, the late nights working side by side, the unexpected Saturday at the Botanic Gardens, the way he had started to smile more often, especially around her. "I think," she said carefully, "that we should find out what us might mean without the complications of being boss and employee." Relief and something deeper flickered in Julian's eyes. "I'd like that, but not right away," Mei Lin added firmly. "You need to establish yourself in the new position. I need to see where my career goes here at Horizon. We need time." Julian nodded, understanding in his expression. "Time, not distance." "Definitely not distance," Mei Lin agreed with a small smile. The following weeks brought significant changes. Julian announced his departure, recommending Mei Lin to take over leadership of the Chen Industries account. The transition was bittersweet. The office felt strange without his quiet, commanding presence, but Mei Lin found herself thriving in her expanded role. They kept in touch, carefully. Professional texts evolved into coffee meetings to discuss industry developments, which gradually became dinners where work was mentioned less and personal stories shared more. 3 months after Julian left Horizon, they attended the Singapore Design Awards together. Not quite as a couple, but no longer just as former colleagues. "Mei Lin," Julian said as they stood on the terrace during a break in the ceremony, "there's something I've been wanting to tell you." "That sounds ominous," she teased, though her heart quickened. "Not at all. It's just—" He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. "I saved it. Your message." Mei Lin's cheeks warmed. "The I love you text? Why would you keep that?" "Because it changed everything," Julian said simply. "It made me question the walls I'd built. It made me see you, really see you, and eventually it made me see myself again." He opened his phone and showed her the screen. There it was, still saved in their message thread. "I think I love you. I've been feeling this way for months and I can't pretend anymore. I know this might change everything, but I needed you to know." "It wasn't meant for me," Julian acknowledged, "but I'm glad it found me anyway." Mei Lin felt a surge of emotion, gratitude for the accident that had brought them to this moment, and something deeper that had been growing steadily over the months. "Julian," she said softly, "I have a confession." "What is it?" "I'm thinking of sending that message again, but this time to the right person." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "And who would that be?" Instead of answering, Mei Lin took out her phone and began typing. Moments later, Julian's phone buzzed with a notification. He looked down at the screen, then back at her, his expression softening into something so tender it took her breath away. "I think I love you." "Not by accident this time?" "Not confused or uncertain. I love the man who sketches in the Botanic Gardens, who believes in my work, who had the courage to rebuild his life when it would have been easier to stay closed off. If you're ready, I am too." Julian slipped his phone back into his pocket and took both her hands in his. "No confusion this time?" "None," Mei Lin confirmed. "I know exactly who I'm talking to." "Good," Julian said, drawing her closer. "Because I've been composing my response for months." In the soft evening light, surrounded by the distant sounds of the ceremony continuing inside, Julian finally gave his answer, not in words, but in a kiss that felt like the beginning of a conversation they would continue for years to come. 6 months later, Mei Lin was promoted to creative director at Horizon. Julian's mentorship program had become the most sought-after development opportunity in the industry. They maintained separate careers, supporting each other's growth while building a relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. And whenever anyone asked how they met, they would share a private smile before Julian would say, "She sent me a message that changed everything," to which Maylene would always add, "Best mistake I ever made." Some called it a modern fairy tale, the accidental text that led to love. But those who knew them understood it wasn't really about the message at all. It was about two people who had been hiding behind professional masks, each afraid of being hurt again, until an unexpected moment of vulnerability created the space for something real to grow. In the end, the message that truly changed their lives wasn't the accidental, "I love you." It was everything they had the courage to say to each other afterward.